Before we begin, I want to take a moment to honor the cultures behind the stories we are about to explore. The tales shared here come from many peoples, lands, and traditions. I do not change these stories to fit modern expectations or to align with today's social standards. Instead, I present them as they were told, sometimes beautiful, sometimes harsh, sometimes challenging. We are not here to judge the past, but to understand it, to listen, to learn, and to honor the ancestors who carried these stories forward. We also share stories from various religious traditions. These are presented in their historical and spiritual context, with respect for their beliefs that they represent. Every culture deserves respect, context, and acknowledgement, and this space is dedicated to doing exactly that. August 6th, the Eruption. Story 1, Vulcan's Forge. Deep beneath the smoky mountains of ancient Italy, where the earth trembled and the rivers of molten rock glowed beneath the crust of the world, the Romans imagined a forge unlike any ever built by human hands. Hidden within the fiery chambers beneath Mount Etna and other volcanic peaks labored Vulcan, the mighty god of fire, volcanoes, metalworking, and craftsmanship. While many gods ruled from lofty temples or shining palaces upon Mount Olympus, Vulcan worked where few dared to venture, surrounded by roaring furnaces, ringing anvils, and showers of brilliant sparks. There, with powerful blows of his hammer echoing through the caverns, he transformed raw metal into objects worthy of both gods and heroes. According to Roman tradition, every volcanic eruption, every plume of smoke rising from the mountain, and every distant rumble beneath the earth revealed that Vulcan's forge was alive once again. The fires below were not signs of chaos alone. They were the sounds of creation taking place where no one could yet see it. Vulcan himself was like any other of the gods. Though immensely skilled, he was often portrayed as physically imperfect, having been lamed after being cast from heaven in many versions of the myth. Yet his greatest strength did not lie in beauty or physical perfection. It rested in his extraordinary ability to shape what others overlooked. Within his forge, rough ore became polished armor, simple bronze became gleaming shields, and ordinary iron became swords capable of changing history. Among his greatest creations were the thunderbolts of Jupiter, the winged helmet of Mercury, and magnificent armor crafted for legendary heroes. None of these masterpieces emerged from gentle hands alone. Every piece endured tremendous heat before receiving the hammer's shaping blows. Metal placed into the fire softened until it could become something entirely new. Had it refused the flames, it would have remained forever unchanged. The Romans found profound wisdom within this image. Fire was never simply destruction, it was preparation. The forge existed not to ruin metal, but to reveal its hidden potential. The same truth appeared throughout ordinary Roman life. Blacksmiths strengthened plows that cultivated fields, forged nails that built homes, and crafted tools that allowed entire cities to flourish. Civilization itself depended upon fire's ability to transform the raw gifts of nature into instruments of purpose. Vulcan's forge therefore became a symbol of life's own hidden workshops. There are seasons where repeated challenges strike like the blacksmith's hammer. During such moments, it is easy to believe we are being broken apart. Yet the ancient storytellers suggested another possibility. Perhaps we are being reshaped. The ore never understands the design while lying inside the furnace. Only the craftsman sees the finished work waiting within the fire. So, too, every difficult season carries a possibility of becoming part of a greater purpose than we can yet imagine. Change often feels violent because transformation always requires letting go of an older form. But just as molten metal cools into lasting strength, lives tested by heat may emerge with wisdom, resilience, and character that could never have been formed in comfort alone. Story 2, Māui steals the secret of fire. Long ago, when the world was still young and humanity depended upon carefully guarded flames to cook food, stay warm, and serve the cold nights, the people of Polynesia told of a clever hero named Māui, whose curiosity often reshaped the world itself. Māui was no ordinary man. Across the islands of the Pacific, he was remembered as a culture hero, trickster, explorer, and champion of humanity. He slowed the sun to lengthen the days, pulled islands from the depths of the sea with his enchanted fishhook, and constantly challenged the boundaries between the human and divine. Yet one of his most beloved adventures began with something surprisingly simple. One evening, after watching the household fire burn low, Māui wondered where fire had first come from. His elders simply accepted the flames must always be protected, carefully passed from one generation to the next. But Māui refused to be satisfied with tradition alone. Determined to uncover fire's true origin, he secretly extinguished every flame in the village until darkness covered the land. When morning arrived and no fire remained, his family had no choice but to send him in search of its source. His journey led him deep into the forest of the dwelling, Mahuika, the ancient guardian of fire. In many Maori traditions, Mahuika was a powerful goddess whose fingernails themselves burned with living flame. Welcoming Māui, she kindly plucked one fiery nail from her hand and gave it to him, so that humanity could rekindle its hearths. Yet Maui's curiosity had not been satisfied. Pretending to lose the flame through accident after accident, he repeatedly returned, asking for another. One by one, Mahuika surrendered her blazing fingernails until only a few remained. At last she realized she had been deceived. Filled with righteous anger, she hurled the last great fire across the land, setting forests ablaze and threatening to consume the world itself. As the flame spread, Māui called upon the powers of rain and storm. Great clouds gathered overhead, and torrents of water finally extinguished the inferno. Yet the fire did not vanish entirely. Before the final flames disappeared, they found refuge within certain trees, hiding deep inside their dry wood. From that day forward, humanity learned that by rubbing together pieces of those sacred woods with patience and determination, fire could be born again whenever it was needed. Thus, the secret of fire no longer belonged solely to the gods. It became a gift entrusted to humankind. The ancient Polynesian storytellers saw profound wisdom within this tale. Fire is never truly lost. Sometimes it simply waits, hidden where only persistence can uncover it. Knowledge, too, often comes through questioning accepted assumptions. Yet Maui's adventure also reminds us that wisdom requires humility. Curiosity may open new doors, but it must be balanced with respect for the gifts it seeks to understand. Fire, once obtained, carries immense responsibility. It can nourish families or destroy forests. It can illuminate the darkness or consume everything in its path. The greatest gift is not merely discovering fire, it is learning how to carry it wisely. Story 3. Kagutsuchi, the fire that changed the world. In the beginning, before Japan's islands had fully taken shape, the divine couple, Izanagi and Izanami, labored together to create the world. With the jeweled spear of heaven, they stirred the primordial sea, raising the islands from the waters one by one. Mountains rose, rivers found their courses, forests spread across the land, and countless kami, the sacred spirits of nature, came into being. The world blossomed through their partnership, each new creation adding beauty and balance to the growing realm. Yet creation itself carries risk, and not every gift enters the world gently. When the time came for Izanami to give birth to Kagutsuchi, the kami of fire, the newborn's blazing power proved too great for even his divine mother to bear. As Kagutsuchi entered the world, his flame burned with such intensity that Izanami suffered terrible wounds and died soon afterward. The first experience of fire was therefore not warmth or comfort, but profound grief. Overcome with sorrow and rage, Izanagi took up his sword and struck down Kagutsuchi. Yet something extraordinary happened. From the blood that fell upon the rocks and from the pieces of Kagutsuchi's body sprang still more kami. New gods of volcanoes, mountains, iron, thunder, and fire emerged from the tragedy, filling the world with forces that would continue shaping the land for generations to come. What had begun as unbearable loss became the birthplace of new creation. The ancient Japanese saw in this story one of nature's deepest memories. Fire possesses two inseparable faces. It can nurture life or consume it. It cooks food, warms homes, and forges tools. Yet it also destroys forests, melts mountains, and reshapes entire landscapes. The same volcano that buries villages beneath ash eventually leaves behind some of the richest soil on Earth. The same wildfire that appears to leave only ruin often clears old growth, allowing sunlight to reach seeds that have waited silently beneath the forest floor for years. Kagutsuchi's birth revealed that creation and destruction are often far more closely connected than they first appear. This truth continued through Izanagi's own journey. Grieving the loss of Izanami, he descended into Yomi, the land of the dead, hoping to bring her back. Though he could not undo what had happened, his return led to a great ritual of purification, during which even more kami were born, including Amaterasu, the radiant sun goddess. Again, loss gave way to renewal. Fire had changed the world forever, but it had not ended it. Instead, it opened a path towards something entirely new. The Japanese storytellers understood that some moments divide life into a before and an after. They arrive suddenly, like volcanic eruptions, leaving us standing within landscapes we no longer recognize. Yet within those altered landscapes, new possibilities slowly emerge. Fire may close one chapter forever, but it often lights the first page of another. Kagutsuchi's story reminds us that while transformation is rarely painless, it is often through life's fiercest moments that entirely new forms of beauty, strength, and purpose are born. Story 4: The Fires of Yellowstone. In the vast wilderness of Yellowstone National Park, where steaming geysers rise beside ancient forests and great herds of bison wander beneath endless skies, fire has always been a part of the landscape story. To many visitors, the sight of flames racing through towering pines appears to signal only destruction. Smoke darkens the sky. Wildlife flees before the advancing blaze, and hillsides once clothed in green are left blackened and silent. For generations, people believed every wildfire should be extinguished as quickly as possible. Fire was seen as an enemy that threatened forests rather than a natural force woven into their life. Yet as scientists began studying Yellowstone more closely, they discovered something remarkable. Long before human beings arrived, lightning had ignited fires throughout these mountains for thousands of years. Entire ecosystems had quietly evolved alongside them. Certain trees, such as lodgepole pine, carried tightly sealed cones that would not release their seeds until intense heat melted the resin holding them closed. Without fire, future forests could never be born. Thick layers of dead branches and fallen trees accumulated upon the forest floor, waiting until lightning returned to clear away what had long since ceased to grow. Then came the summer of 1988, one of the driest years in Yellowstone's recorded history. Powerful winds, severe drought, and dozens of lightning strikes combined to create one of the largest wildfire seasons the park had ever experienced. For months, flames swept across the mountain and valleys despite the efforts of thousands of firefighters. Newspapers around the world published dramatic images of forests consumed by fire, and many feared Yellowstone itself had been permanently destroyed. By the time autumn snowstorms finally extinguished the flames, nearly 80,000 acres had burned. At first glance, the devastation seemed complete. Black trunks stretched toward gray skies. Ash covered the ground, and entire hillsides appeared lifeless. Yet nature had begun quietly preparing for this moment all along. When spring returned, tiny green shoots emerged through the ash. Wildflowers blanketed the burning slopes. Lodgepole pines' seeds sprouted up by the billions. Elk grazed upon fresh grasses nourished by mineral-rich soil, while woodpeckers discovered insects thriving within the standing dead trees. Wetlands expanded, creating new habitats for birds and amphibians. Within only a few years, scientists realized that Yellowstone had not been ruined. It had entered a new chapter of its ancient cycle. Fire had removed old growth that no longer served the forest, opening space, sunlight, and nutrients for new life to flourish. Today, Yellowstone has become one of the world's greatest living classrooms for understanding ecological renewal. Fire is still respected, carefully managed, and never treated carelessly. Yet it is no longer viewed only as catastrophe. It is recognized as one of nature's oldest architects. The ancient storytellers often imagined fire as the force that transforms heroes, kingdoms, and worlds. Yellowstone reminds us that nature tells the same story. Change can feel sudden and overwhelming, like an eruption or wildfire. Yet beneath the surface, renewal may already be quietly waiting. Sometimes the landscape that follows the fire becomes richer, stronger, and more diverse than the one that stood before it. Okay. Daily thread for August 6th. What is this fire making of me? Volcanoes do not reshape the earth in a single moment. Long before the mountain erupts, unseen pressure has been building beneath the surface. The same is often true of our lives. Change may appear sudden, but transformation has usually been quietly unfolding long before anyone notices. Today's stories invite us to look beneath the surface of the fire and ask not only what it destroys, but what it is creating. In the roaring forge of Vulcan, raw metal surrendered to heat in the steady rhythm of the hammer, until it became something stronger and more purposeful than before. Māui sought the secret of fire and discovered that wisdom is rarely handed to us without effort, persistence, and the humility to respect the gifts we receive. The birth of Kagutsuchi forever changed the Japanese creation story, reminding us that even the deepest sorrow can become the beginning of new life, new understanding, and new possibilities. And in the forests of Yellowstone, flames that had once appeared to erase everything instead opened forgotten seeds, enriched the soil, and prepared the land for a richer generation of life than had stood before. The one story comes from mythology, and another from the natural world. Together, they reveal a timeless truth. Change is rarely the opposite of life. More often, it is the way life continues. We naturally resist the heat. We cling to familiar landscapes because they feel safe. Yet the ancients understood that nothing living remains unchanged forever. Trees shed their leaves. Rivers carve new paths through stone. Mountains rise and slowly wear away. Even stars are born, burn brightly, and one day give their light back to the universe. We are part of the same living rhythm. There are seasons when life feels like a forge, a wildfire, or a volcano quietly rumbling beneath our feet. During those moments, it is easy to believe everything is falling apart, but perhaps another question deserves our attention. What if something stronger is being formed? What if the fire is not only taking something from us, but giving us something we could not have received any other way? Patience may be forged where certainty once lived. Compassion may grow where pride once stood. Wisdom may emerge only after innocence has given way to experience. The mountain never remains exactly as it was after the eruption, but neither does it remain barren forever. New forests grow, new rivers form, new life appears where only ash once rested. As we end today's journey, remember this. Transformation is seldom comfortable, but it is often deeply creative. The fire may alter the landscape of our lives, yet it also prepares the ground for seeds we cannot yet see. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not surviving the eruption, it is discovering the unexpected life that begins because of it.